Hi guys, good evening for those in Asia and good morning for those in Toronto and the East Coast. Today I'm going to make, and thanks to Tash from Superwell for these soup packs. So this one is hot air, if you look here, and essentially there's a lot of things that you can do with this. So let's talk about soup design right now and what I'm thinking in terms of why I'm going with a hot air heat clearing soup. So if you think about weather conditions, that's probably the first thing. So for example, right now it's in the spring, it's raining, so it's pretty humid. So what we want to do is address heat and address dampness. And so keeping that in mind, this is where you start your soup design. So essentially I want ingredients, herbs that, and this is what this pack does. So the hot air will help clear the heat, as well as some of the ingredients in here, which are beans, will help dispel dampness. And so the key thing right now here is to keep in mind, all right, soup design, I'm going to go with clearing heat and removing dampness. And so with that premise, what vegetables or what roots match? And this is where the soup design comes in. All right, so I'm thinking, all right, melons are your best friends when it comes to spring and for clearing heat and for clearing dampness. So any type of melons. Winter melon, I've got a radish here, I've got carrots as well, chayotes work. Fuzzy melons, those are all work as well. And so this is really what's going to be the premise of the soup design. And when you're thinking soup design, so today I'm doing like a melon spring soup, melon heat clearing, damp clearing spring soup. The best protein with this type of soup, so you've got pork, chicken, fish, beef, fine. Pork is your best bet when it comes to spring soups or soups that are more cooling. Chicken tends to be on the warmer side. I'm curious about fish because fish is often a cooler protein, but not used for long boils. So fish tends to be in the quick boil or guantong, where you're just bubbling the soup really quickly, other than the papaya fish soup. So hi for those joining. I am using this heat reduction and clear skin soup pack from Superwell. Soup design really quickly is because it's clearing heat, so you want a cooler soup, and removing dampness, you want to use the cooler meats or cooler roots or vegetables. And so today I've gone with the green radish, which is very cooling, and carrots, which help add flavors, and then also chayotes. So I'm making a pretty big pot today, and to pair that, if you're going to go with spring soups, pork will be your choice of protein. And so what I've got here is pork backbones, and essentially, I mean, if you're doing any pork soup, I just go to the supermarket and look for what's on sale. It could be pork shank, pork back, pork neck, whatever happens to be the selection on that day yesterday. That's actually just what I get, and you're boiling it anyways, and the flavors are all the same. All right, let's talk about herb base. And so essentially out of this soup pack, one of these packs is, I'll show you, like this. And this is for 1.5 liters worth of water. I tend to make big pots of soup. Normal people drink soup like bowls like this small. In my family, our soup bowls are like that big, right? And so I normally do double. I usually use around 3 to 4 liters of water. But one pack like this is for about 1.5 liters. All right, so let's break down what ingredients are here. Let me show you. I've opened it like this. One trick, if you're going to use like a lot of small ingredients like this, barley, beans, use a soup bag. And the reason I do a soup bag, and this one's wrinkly because I've pre-boiled it just to clean it. And the reason I use a soup bag is because one, the kids don't like the stuff floating around the soup. And two, at the end, I can just remove it and dispose of it like that. And so just a trick to think about, use a soup bag. They are reusable. So after you're done, you just clear it out and then wash it and then you can reuse it. So I will put all my loose ingredients, especially if you have a lot of small ingredients, just put them in a soup bag like this, and it really keeps everything together. It keeps the soup clean and clear, especially for my children. They like see stuff and they're like, I don't want to drink it, right? And so let's talk about what the herb base is. So keep in mind, this soup is going to be a heat clearing, damp clearing spring soup. So the ingredients, the herb base needs to match and help with those things. So let me turn this down so you can see what I'm talking about here. So in this mix, I can't separate it, but you'll see there is, okay, honey dates. Honey dates is what I will use instead of red dates. Sorry, let's come back up really quick. So dates, let's talk about the two dates. Red dates are warming. And so typically I would use red dates in warm soups. But if I'm doing a cool soup, it will be the honey dates rather than the red dates. So that's just something to keep in mind about using the two different dates in your soups. All right, so let's show you the rest of the ingredients. All right, in here, we've also got this thing, which is a bit funny looking, like that. It's essentially a root, or called rhizome, and it's a root. And this root is really great for expelling damp heat. And so that's what we're trying to address right now, because it is pretty warm in Toronto, humid, raining. And so this thing, hold on, let me show you as well. These things are actually really good for eczema and acne. And so one of the causes of acne and eczema is dampness in the body and hot. And that's why the eczema shows up, and that's why the acne shows up on the skin. It's because it just pops out because the heat's trying to escape. And so this soup is actually really good for clearing the skin as well. All right, let's keep going here. So these rhizomes are really good for clearing damp heat, clearing eczema and acne. So put this in definitely. We've also got here red beans. Where are they? These little red beans right there, right there. So red beans are really good for expelling dampness and activating and circulating the blood, which is really neat. Actually, the other thing about red beans is that they help circulation and they help reduce swelling, which is also what happens when you have acne and eczema, is that the skin and the pores swell. And so red beans are really good for that as well. All right, let's keep going. I've also got here hyacinth beans. I don't really know how to pronounce them sometimes. Where are they? These little white ones, these ones. Oh, these guys right here. These hyacinth beans, these are white beans right there. So white beans are really good for qi deficiency and amazing for treating heat in the summer. They also clear dampness from the body. And then the honey date I talked about, which is strengthening. And then we've got barley, so a whole bunch of barley. So there's barley here, cooked barley, raw barley. They all work as well. And the barley is really good for draining dampness, regulating water in the body, and also clearing damp heat. All right, so just that's the soup base. All right, hi everyone. So if you've just joined, essentially what I'm doing is I'm making a heat clearing, damp clearing spring soup. The premise is most of these ingredients are cooling, so that's the first premise. And then the other one is that you want to pair it with cooling vegetables or roots. And then the cooling protein is going to be the pork. All right, there's also some questions about like, all right, how do you get the flavorfulness? Hi Tash, I know I saw your request, I'm not sure. It's going through, but hi, thanks for joining. And thank you for the soup pack. So the thing here is the roasted large ones is the white beans. Oh, I see, yes, this one's, hold on. You're talking about these ones. That's barley, no? Hold on, I'm trying to, oh, these ones, I got it. Yeah, these ones, you're right. So these are the white hyacinth beans, and then these are barley. So the barley's got like big barley and little barley in the soup pack. Thank you, awesome. All right, so just a trick here to make it more flavorful. Hold on, let me get the mushrooms. So there's a few things here to keep in mind. These ingredients, just to let you know, don't have any flavor normally themselves. Other than the dates, a little bit sweet. Beans don't have a lot of flavor, a little bit sweet as well, but super mild. And so the premise of Chinese soup actually is really to add additional flavors. This is simply an herb base. So if anyone's had traditional Chinese medicine, most of it actually tastes not great. And so there are a lot of additions that come in. So just keep in mind when you're doing soup design, what are the flavors that you want to add? Chinese herbs don't give you the flavor profile of your soup. I'm just saying that as to set the base. You really have to think about what are the flavor profiles that you want in your soup. And so for me today, what I'm doing is some of the flavors to add to Chinese soup are shiitake mushrooms. So I get them, these are baby ones. I get them like this in a pack. I also have bigger ones. I'll get them out in a bit. Actually, let me show you. I've also got So very traditionally Chinese. You can get like giant mushrooms like this as well. Any of these work as well for flavor. So this is something you can consider adding in your soup as well. And your vegetable base. Don't forget to add either vegetables or roots, which help add flavors to the soup. Today I'm adding green radish, super flavorful, versus the white radish tends to be not as flavorful. Carrots are also flavorful as well. And because to help with the cooling, chayotes. These actually don't have a lot of flavor, but they're quite nice in the soup, and I eat them. And then you need a meat. Again, you don't have to have meat. If you're doing like a vegetarian base, cashews, mushrooms, even fried tofu are great, or dried tofu are great additives for protein that replace meat. And I've got a post on the channel that talks about meat replacements if you want to do that. All right, so this is where we are. We're going to make a spring soup today. Heat clearing, dampness clearing. First thing I'm going to do is, because I'm efficient, I've washed my pork bones, and right there in this pot, I'm going to start boiling it to blanch my meats. And there is a question that I get. Do you blanch your meats in cold water or boiling water? All right, let's talk about a bit of a theory here. When you put the bones in cold water, what happens is that, yeah, absolutely, Tash. She was saying that arrowroots are also great additions to the soup, lotus roots as well. Any of the roots are great spring soups and match with this. So let's go back to this question around, do you blanch in cold water or hot water? I've done both. However, some of the research, for example, if you're putting it in cold water, what happens is that it allows time for the water-soluble protein to dissolve out into the water before it boils. If you put bones in boiling water, what it does is flash cook, and then all the proteins and everything is locked inside. So again, your choice. There's no difference in taste, essentially, from my perspective. But it's your call whether you want to put it in boiling water or cold water. I'm going to put it in cold water right now and turn on the heat as it boils. So I'm going to drop in my bones in here really quickly. This is the blanching process. And for those who are joining, when you blanch bones, the idea is to really just get rid of the foam, the dirt, the blood. And when they cut it on the machines, it does leave a lot of gritty debris. And so that's what it does to blanch it, and also pre-cook it, clean it before you use for soup. Because what you'll notice is, especially pork, when you bubble it out, what happens is there's like a brown foam that forms. And the whole point is, okay, we don't want that in our soup, right? You could scoop it out with a oil scooper, which I'll do later. But this is just a step that is very Chinese. It's taught, actually a lot of cultures, like Asian cultures, to pre-blanch. The Koreans as well, their bones. All right, so what I'm going to do is, that's blanching. I will salt it a bit. There's reasons for that too. Hold on. This thing is not that salty. Let's use more. All right, so what salt does is also, it gives a little bit flavor to the bones, not a lot, but it also reduces the boiling point of water. So for those in chemistry, what it does is reduce it so it boils quicker. All right, so that's going because of my efficiency, my time efficiency. So I'm going to blanch now. You don't have to fully cook it. The whole point is just to clean it and boil some of that dirt, debris, blood, fat, render some of the fat as well. For today, what I'm going to do is, for those who like to just plan your day and want to make a soup right in the morning, I sometimes drink it for lunch, but this is really more for dinner. I will use a thermal pot, and I get this question a lot about, what is a thermal pot? What do you do? So this is the thermal pot. The thermal pot essentially is, and I'm going to bring it down here for you to see. The thermal pot essentially is just a pot inside insulation. So this is the insulation. It's quite thick. And the design of this is very Japanese. That's where it started. I'm using a Tiger one here, which I really like. But the Elephant brand is actually really good as well. So the idea is I'm boiling this on the stove, right? And then it retains the heat. And then what I do is, I'll show you, is that I'll then put it in this pot. And this is actually insulated, and it keeps it warm and bubbling. So as long as there's heat in the pot, so heat rises, and so it actually creates this circular motion in the pot, very gentle, and it just kind of cooks itself. So this is what the thermal pot is. I'm going to put this on the stove, and then what I do is I just leave it all day long, and it cooks by itself. So that's where you save electricity, you save heat, you save time. And so for those who are in a rush, this is a super easy soup today because it's essentially throwing all the soup herbs together, chopping the veggies, the meats, blanching, throw it all in a pot together, let it boil for 30 minutes, and then I'll drop it in the thermal pot and let it rest. That's the perfect part about this, this pot. All right, so I'm gonna put this here and do this in a bit. All right, so what I'm gonna do is also, as I said today, 1 pack of this soup is going to be about 1.5 liters. We make big soup pots here because my soup bowls are not this small. That's not my reference, although that is the standard size. My soup bowls are like that big, right? And so the family will graze on the soup all day, this soup, all day, as soon as, 3 or 4 hours in the pot, and then it's ready to drink. So I'm gonna fill this up first and then get that boiling. Hold on. So you can come with me as I fill the pot. Maybe I should have done it earlier. All right, so I'm gonna put about 3 liters. And 3 liters is gonna give you a good 8 bowls. Big bowls, well, small bowls, but your call. All right, that's the 2nd liter, and then I'll do 1 more. All right, hey guys, for those just joining, today I am making a heat clearing, damp clearing spring soup. All right, perfect. And then we can start boiling the soup water as well. This doesn't, oh, it is on. Great. Okay, we'll let that boil. All right, so back to the ingredients. I took out the soup pack. Basically looks like this. Here's a tip. What you can do is just use a soup bag because the soup ingredients. So what I'm going to use is why I use a soup bag is because, first of all, my kids don't like the stuff floating around. And then it helps just keep it clear. But again, it's up to you whether you want to or not. So essentially, it just goes into the soup bag like that. And it's great for cleanup, by the way. So essentially, at the end of the soup's done. Oops! At the end of the soup, that's the pea protein that's flying out. At the end of the soup, essentially what I do is just fish out the bag. I'll just dump it into my organic bag to process it, and then you can wash the bag and reuse it. I use this for fish bones. I use this for like small ingredients like beans. Barley are great, just so that the cleanup is a lot easier. Okay, hold on. Like this. Oh, it's all falling out. Here, we'll just dump it in. Like that. Okay. So this is your herb base, and it's just a little tip that I've learned, especially when I'm using small ingredients for soup. It's just helpful to keep all the stuff together so it's not flying around. That's one tip. And then the other thing I'm putting in are shiitake mushrooms for more flavor. Again, these are baby ones. You can use big ones as well. What I will do is actually also put the shiitake, your choice, in the soup bag or not. Up to you. All right. Okay, so while everything else is boiling, so what's happening now? Let me show you. I gotta carry you, though. It's okay, I'm sorry. I'm really bad at this like live thing. Okay, so let's go look what's going on. So for those who have joined, the pork bones are blanching in cold water. There's a post about why I blanch in cold water, not hot water, both the same. And then my soup water started boiling. That's 3 liters of water. I might actually add 1 more liter. All right, let's prepare the vegetables and the roots now. Okay, they've been washed, so wash your veggies. My veggie base today is chayotes. Melons are your best friends for spring and clearing dampness and reducing heat. This soup in particular, you can watch it again. The design really is to clear heat, clear dampness, help clear your skin. And so skin problems tend to, like eczema and acne, tend to stem from internal heat and damp from the body. And so the dampness is trying to escape, same with the heat, which is why there's swelling and breakouts, right? And so this is something that's really good for just clearing all that water. Helps you go pee and clearing all that heat today. Okay, so let me get organized. Okay. Let's prepare the vegetables. So green radish, super tasty. If you want flavor for a soup, this is your bang for your buck in terms of melon flavors. I mean, winter melon's a great one as well, but not that flavorful. Chayotes don't have a lot of flavor. Carrots are actually a really good one as well. Another great vegetable that you could put in here is corn, and then arrowroot or lotus roots as well. All right, so for the green melon, FYI, for those who've used it, peel it deeper. And this is if you want to eat it. And the reason is because the skin is quite thick. So let me show you as I'm doing this. The skin is quite thick, right? And so what I do is actually peel it until it gets like fleshy, like this. So it's almost like 3 times. So that's what I'm doing with these type of radishes. White radish is the same. Peel it deeper because when you eat it, it just tastes better and it's not so hard on the edges. All right, so until you see that like white fleshy part like that, that's really what you want to do if you're peeling green radish. But you could keep the skin on as well, up to you. But I like eating them. My kids love eating them as well. Super flavorful and very cooling, by the way, okay? This is a super cooling, out of all the melons here, on top of winter melon, I'd say the green melon is probably one of the coolest. In Cantonese, it's chang lo bat, which is like pale radish. It's a direct translation, but I call it green radish. Okay, there, pretty much something like that. All right, chomp all. All right, and I'll save. Okay, the other tip is here. You can save all these scraps and use them in other soups. And so I do have a scrap bag in the freezer. And like if you're making some other type of cooling soups, this is actually really great flavors as well if you're not using the green melons as well. All right, let's do this. Choice of size. All right, my handy butcher knife. Let's talk about how you can cut these. So I will reserve this as well. Some people just cut the radishes like this and put them in. Up to you by choice. I tend to do them like a bit smaller. I'm the only one eating them though. My kids sometimes will eat 1 or 2 pieces, but not often. Okay. And because they're this thick, I will cut them smaller as well. But up to you. It's your soup, okay? I don't dictate how you should cut your veggies. It's really completely up to you. All right, and I'm going to put everything in this bowl to drop it in the soup later. Pause. Let's go look at what's happening with the blanching. Okay, so this is what's happening now. And this is what I talked about, why you blanch pork bones, right? See all that foam that's coming up? This is what we want eliminated from the soup ahead of time. Again, you could keep this in your soup, but then you'd have to keep scooping off the foam. So I'm just going to turn off the heat on this and just let this sit on its own until I'm ready to put everything into the soup pot. So there are a few options you can do with the blanching. Some people do pour out the water, rinse it just to get rid of all the gunk. Up to you as well. In this case, I'll just take it out and then drop it directly into the soup. So I'll show you how I'll do that. All right, oops, sorry. Okay, there, finish washing this. All right, almost done. Okay, so that is the green radish. And then what I'm going to do is also peel the carrots right here. So I'm only using 2 carrots. I've washed them. Up to you how many you want to use. Again, there's no fixed recipe for Chinese soups. Just to let you guys know. Here, you can watch me. Just to let you guys know, I sometimes honestly just make it up as I go. The things you do have to keep in mind when making Chinese soup really is the pairing of your herb base with your ingredients. And for example, we would rarely, in this case, use beans cooling ingredients with, let's say, red dates, right, necessarily. Although red dates are okay sometimes, but in terms of to be really efficient in how the Chinese herbs are really helping, we try to group them together in terms of like cooling versus warming. That's the other interesting thing. But yeah, keep soup design in mind. I think that's really the key principle when you're making Chinese soups. And it's not overly complicated. I mean, some of the most basic Chinese soups have the same ingredients. Mushrooms, yeah, some red dates, if not red dates, then honey date. And so that's just some of the things to keep in mind when you're doing soup design. And I do talk a lot about this on the channel, just about how to do soup design. My interest is really allowing people to create their own rather than follow a fixed recipe, right? The idea is like you do what's best for your family and what the conditions are. So right now it's spring, which means humid and hot. And so just by that principle, if there's no other health concerns going on, you want to just be addressing dispelling water, any diuretic ingredients. Beans, barley are the best during the season, and melons. Okay, there we go. So we've got the carrots. I'm going to drop them in as well. And then finally, the chayotes. So I'm not sure if people use chayotes very often. Again, optional for this soup. I tend to just stick with like red and green radishes sometimes, which is called hong tang lo bat in Cantonese. But today I saw them, yesterday I saw them, they're fresh. So actually, you know what, I just might use one. I don't peel the chayotes. It's very simple. Like I just cut it in half like this. I'll cut off like maybe the ends, maybe. They're pretty good as a melon for soups. So let me show you here. Like this. Okay, cut them any way you want, like this. You will find them commonly in Cantonese styled soups, chayotes, with pork. Remember I talked about sometimes chicken, but often pork. Okay, I think that's good enough. There's a lot going on there. Okay, so this is boiling. All right, let's regroup where we are. So what we've done now is the pork bones are blanched. We're ready to go and put that in. The soup is pretty much boiling, so I can add my ingredients as well. And just as a tip for people watching, I typically don't put a lot of salt. MSG for sure not. All the flavors come from either the vegetables, the herbs, or the pork, the protein. And so that's really just how I like to keep it a little more, I guess, flavorful, but yet not flavorful because I'm trying not to like add a lot of additives. And that's just me. And then at the end, if you do want to add more salt, then I leave it to the family or the children, whoever, or the drinker, you decide. But that's really how I fix it. And I know some people do marinate their bones in salt. My mom does that, and I just don't, right? But that's up to you. And so let's see what's going on here. All right, so the soup is boiling pretty nicely. I'm going to start adding the ingredients. What's going to happen is I'm going to put in the bones first. And so, oh, actually, you know what? You could come look. It's funny how I talk to live like a real person, although I know it's not. But anyway, you're here with me. So essentially, this is what it looks like. All that foamy gunk that's come out. Great, perfect. That's what we want. And so I'll just like slosh the bones around a little bit like that and then drop it into the soup. Optional, you could rinse it in water. Some people do, just to get more of the debris out. That's completely up to you. And so today, for those who are watching, I usually buy pork that's on sale because it really doesn't matter what type of pork you use, whether it's pork, neck, back, shank, whatever's on sale, okay? That's the easiest way to do it. But if you're particular, like pork shank is a nice one that my mom uses a lot because you can eat it and dip it in soy sauce. But there's enough meat on these bones as well that, see, look, there's meat there. So what happens is I will take out the bones as part of the meal and dip it in soy sauce. And it's yummy. Why not? Okay. These bones cost me $3, by the way. $3 Canadian. It's cheap. Although I still think it's cheaper in Hong Kong, but still happy I have, oh, is that it? One more. Okay. No, I see one more. Okay, perfect. So here's the soup boiling. Can you see that? Great, we're just gonna let that boil, and then I'm gonna drop in, oh, you can see me from here. Like, how do people do this? I probably need some help figuring out how to do live with cooking videos. Like, do they have like multiple angles, multiple cameras? I'm really curious about, or just leave it like this, you know? Okay, so that's done. Perfect. Well, and that's boiling. Oh no, you know what? I'm just going to stand you over here. Sorry, guys. Every time, I tell you, it's an adventure in soup making. Okay, so there, the soup's boiling. You can see it, perfect. What I'm going to do now is just drop in all the veg. Okay, there's a lot. So what I'm going to do now is just gently drop in all the melons, chayote, green radish, carrots. Okay, perfect. See what I mean about the size of the pot? This is why I need a big pot. There. And then, for those joining, this is my soup bag. In the soup bag, I have got all my herbs. Let me show you. Okay, so here, if you can see that. No, not really. Okay, so all the herbs I've dropped in here, you could go back and look at the video essentially. And the reason why I'm using a soup bag in this is because there's a lot of beans, barley, and two reasons is that my children don't like seeing all the stuff floating around, but they will sink to the bottom. That's one thing. And then the other thing is that this serves for much easier cleanup. This whole bag here. So now you can see all the herbs here. The flavors will come out regardless. And so it's just way easier to clean up at the end when I take all this out. And I don't have to scoop it out, right? Like unless you really like eating the barley, which I do, but or the mushrooms, which I do as well. But it's just way easier for cleanup and for service. Okay, that is essentially it. Like, is that it? That is it. That is it for my soup today. And then I'm going to let that boil for about 30 minutes. On medium heat. Okay, and that's really it. And then so to explain the rest of the process, after I've done boiling this thing for about 30 minutes, this is the thermal pot. And I talked about this earlier. So essentially when this is done, so the whole idea of the 30 minutes is to really let it cook, really let some of the flavors come out, intensify that heat. And then I'm going to drop that whole pot into this thing right there and then close it and leave it for the rest of the day. And then, you know, at around maybe lunch, so it's 9:30 now, it'll sit for about till noon. And then if I feel like having some, I'll open it, maybe reheat it on the stove, have a bowl, put it back in, and then let it sit till night. And so that's essentially what the thermal pot's good for, is that you can do this right in the morning. And today's process was really quick, right? Like my live was 30 minutes and it's just me yapping. But 15 minutes, you could get this soup in the pot, boil, you know, go get ready, have it boiling for 30 minutes, drop it in the pot, and walk away. And that's why, that's what I really love about the thermal pot, is that it doesn't need energy, right? It's kind of self-contained in the insulated construction of that pot. All right, so that's it. Any questions? I'm going to hang around for like a few more minutes to see if there are any questions about like soup design, the ingredients, preparing the soup. This is really just like Cantonese style soup right now. But if you have any questions, drop it in the chat and I will see it right now. But thanks guys for popping by. I know it's been a while. I've been working on other things. I mean, the soup lady is just one of my personas. I have many, as we all do. But yeah, that's it. Any questions? Let me know, or maybe I did miss them. So, all right. So that's it essentially today. Letting that boil, and then I'm going to drop in the pot. I will make a full video to show you towards the end of the day what happens with the soup and then how it looks after service. But that's it. Thanks, Tash. I have to. I'm going to ring you afterwards about like that. There was a request that came through, and I'm not really good at doing this live thing, but I will message you after about like what that request was. But anyway, thank you so much for the soup pack. It's awesome. I will let you know what my kids thought of it. And we'll go from there. All right. All right. Thanks guys. Have a good day. Bye so much. All right. See, turning off the live is going to be a challenge. Nope. Wrong button. All right. Bye everyone.